Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be using Scratch to create some coding projects. Now, this episode, we're going to be making a collection game for Science Olympiad. Science Olympiad is a competition of many different science categories and competing to see who is the best at it. And in collection, the user-controlled sprite is involved in the collecting of objects to complete the objective of the game. So basically, one example is Pac-Man. The Pac-Man would try to collect the coins to try to complete the level. Once it does, a win condition happens. Now, it would be better if you would know the basic fundamentals of coding, which would make this a lot easier, but it's okay if you don't. So this is your Scratch project overview. Here's your full screen. These are for external and internal, like advanced options, which you don't need for now. This is your save. This is your profile. This is if you want to make it public. You don't worry about the other things I don't mention. This is zooming in, zooming out, and putting back to normal size for your work environment. This is if you want to shrink an object, if you want to make an object bigger, if you want to cut something, or if you want to duplicate something. This is your sprite overview section. Over here you'll see what your sprite looks like at the moment, because sprites can have multiple costumes. And this is your sprite name. You can change your name here. This is your backdrop. Backdrop is what's in the background of your project. You can change how your backdrop looks here. And this is the backdrops, this is the costume selection. So here you can change how any object looks like. And sounds is if you want to input a sound from a file, recording, or one of the Scratch sounds that's already in the program. Alright, so this is your coding blocks. Motion is any coding block that will change the position, direction, or both in a sprite. So this will move the sprite in whatever direction it's facing. This will turn the sprite's direction, so point the sprite in that direction, so point a sprite towards another sprite or an object. This will change the position of the sprite to an exact place. This will also change it to an object, and this will make the sprite glide or slowly move to an object. This will change the sprite relative to its position. Same with this. X is towards your right, and negative X is towards your left, and Y is upwards, and negative Y is downwards. You can also see your X and Y position of the mouse here, and the X and Y position of the sprite here. This is for a moving object. So whenever my sprite is facing a direction and I make it move forward and it hits a wall, it will collide and bounce off of it like so. And this is the rotation style that you want for your sprite. So depending on how you want to rotate it, you'll change that. Okay, now that you know the basics of sprite and you know how these blocks work, we'll go over these blocks later. Let's start. So first you want a costume. Now this might be a little overwhelming, but it's quite simple. This is if you want to import a sprite. These are already in Scratch, so you don't have to download anything. There's everything there. This is if you want to create a sprite or create a costume. This is if you want to upload a costume from your file explorer, and this is if you want to take a picture. Alright, now that we're here, we're going to be using vector mode. The difference between vector mode and bitmap mode is that in bitmap, everything is pixelated. So in most images, such as a PNG or JPG, it's bitmap. So each pixel is defined and nothing is smaller than that pixel. In vector mode, however, not everything is defined. Everything is a function, a mathematical function. So here, no matter how much we zoom in, this curve will always be curved like this. This is because it uses math to find the curve. And let me delete this real quick. Because it does that, this will never be pixelated out, and this will always be fine detail. And that's why we're using vector mode. Alright, now that you know the difference between bitmap and vector, let's learn about these. This is your cursor, and if you click this, you can select something by clicking on it or highlighting it. This is if you want to reshape the points of an object so it looks like something else. You can use that to add a point, add a curve, or change the endpoints. This is if you want to free draw an object. You can free draw an object by clicking, press holding, and moving the mouse. This is your stroke size, and this is your color. You can draw like so. And this is your undo button and redo button. I do not want that there, so I'm going to undo it. The line is used to create a line between 2 points. If I want to make the line thinner, I'll do this. And if I want to change the color, I'll do this. This is if you want to create a square or a rectangle. You can change if the square is hollow or a rectangle is hollow or not. We'll be making a hollow rectangle like this. If you want to create a square, you will need to press Shift and click. Alright, this is your ellipse tool. This will create an oval or a circle. Click one point and drag to another point. Press Shift if you want to create a perfect circle. This is your text tool. You can click and type whatever you want. Oh man, I was a bit sloppy there. But you can type, and if you press enter, you will skip a line or go to the next line. And you can also use your arrow keys to change the position of your cursor or typing cursor. You can also press different areas of the text to change where the position is. Change the color as well to whatever you like, and change the font here. I don't need this, so I'm going to press delete and it will be gone. This is your fill tool. You can change how an object is colored in with the fill tool. This is the color that you're going to be filling in with. You can change that to whatever color you would like. If you don't see a good color here, press this and you can find the color. If you don't know where in this color wheel a color is in, press the eyedropper tool and click wherever you want. Oh my bad, you have to click wherever you want in here and you'll get the color. If you want to get a color from here, you will have to use your sensing and get the color here. This is your duplicate tool. You have to click an object and it will duplicate it for you. From here, you can move the object wherever you want, rotate it. Well, you can't rotate a circle without changing its appearance, or with changing its appearance. You can't rotate a circle and change the appearance. You can resize it, and you can move it. Alright, now that you know how to create a costume, you can create one. Once you have done that, we're going to be creating your collection game. This is the rubric of the game. we're going to be trying to follow all of these, except for documentation, because we're not going to be creating a document. Alright, so let's start. We have Sprite here. I'm going to rename this to the character so it's easier to know. This is what it's going to be collecting. It's going to be a coin. Alright, now that we have this, let's add some code. There are different ways you can move your Sprite. You can do it with the mouse, the arrow keys, or both. Let's start with the mouse. Events are something that will happen depending on another object. If you guys know some coding languages, this would be like your handler that will pick up or do an object when something happens. For example, if I had a button and there's an on click, then that would be your on click function. So when this is pressed, or when this green flag is pressed, it will do something. You can right click to duplicate, delete, add comment, or if you need help, you'll press that and a help will appear. Now I'll add a comment here so you'll remember what this is. Anything below this as code will activate when you press the green flag. Alright, so whatever I put here will happen when I click this. For example, I want it to face the mouse pointer and move 10 steps towards it. My mouse pointer is here, it's facing towards it, and it's moving 10 steps towards it. Good, it's working. But now I want it to move forever in what direction it's facing, or the mouse pointer. In control, we can do that. This is your delay. This is a repeat as a while or for command, but simplified. This is a while or for command that will go forever. This is an if conditional statement. This is the if else conditional statement. This is waiting until an event happens. For example, clicking the green flag is the event. This will repeat until an event happens. This will stop all the code, some of the code, or anything except for certain code in a Sprite. And this is your cloning options. Alright, we want this to forever go towards the mouse. When we click this, this will go towards the mouse forever. Good, we got it working. But what's this? This is what's known as a bug. A bug is something that you did not intend to do, but the code has a certain error in it that makes it do such a thing. What's happening here is the object is continuously going in wherever direction the mouse is going. Even if it's on the mouse, it will go closer to the mouse's position. That will make it forever go in a loop to try to get closer. So we're going to try to cancel that problem. If the object is on the mouse, then we don't want it to move closer. So we're going to use our if statement. A hexagon means it's a Boolean code. Boolean is a true or false statement. So if we go to sensing, touching mouse pointer, so if it's touching the mouse pointer, and we go to not, and we'll put this here. So this not makes the inverse of this. So if it's not touching the mouse pointer, so if a mouse is here, this will go towards the mouse. If a mouse is here, it will not go towards the mouse. And this Boolean, remember this is a Boolean, a false statement. In this case, if this is touching the mouse pointer, this will be true. If it is not, it will be false. Remember that there is not code there, which will make this the inverse of the boolean. Alright, now that we have our comment, boolean. Alright, so if this is not touching the mouse pointer, we'll activate this. But if it is, nothing will happen. So let's see it in action, and it works. Alright, now that we have this working, let's try a simpler option, arrow keys. Well, it's not really simpler, it's just a different way to do this. Okay, so first, we want to ask the player, do you want to use your mouse pointer or arrow keys? Right here, this is your mouse pointer. And if you want to use arrow keys, we'll be using a different code. There are many ways to ask the character what you want to do. For example, you can press a button, or you can make the character choose with a scrolling bar. You can ask the question directly, or you can make the character draw whichever one they want to do. You can do whatever you want. So we're going to be doing the most simple option as of now, because this is the, I guess, beginning of the project, and we don't want to overcomplicate things too far. So before anything happens, so before the forever loop is activated and this happens, we're going to ask, do you want to use the mouse pointer, or do you want to use the arrow keys? Alright, now when we start this, it's going to ask the question down here. Do you want to use the mouse pointer, or do you want to use the arrow keys? This is where you input your answer. If I press mouse pointer, then this mouse pointer text will be saved into this answer. If the object is circular, that means it's a variable. If you don't know what a variable is a placeholder for a changing number or an unknown number. For example, if it said x equals 3, then or x equals 19 minus 4, you don't know what x is. So we're just going to be using something to placehold it. And 19 minus 4, we can solve for 15. That means we know that the variable x is 15. We can also change it, so x equals x plus 1. So if x is 15, then we're going to change it to 15 plus 1, or 16. Now normally in math this wouldn't work, but in coding this is different. If we use the equal sign in coding, that means save whatever value is on the right side into the left side. For example, let me open Notepad, and if I put integer x equals 0, and if I want to save a value into x, it means x equals 5. Basically, this does not say the value of x is 5. This says whatever is here is saved into whatever is here. So if I say x equals 5 to the second power over 9 or 7, that means this value will be saved into this. Alright, now that you know what that is, let's use this. This is if you want to accept your answer choice, or answer. So we want to get our answer. So you put a if-else conditional statement here. And we're going to use equal sign. Remember, this is Boolean. If the answer is a certain text, then this happens. Or if the answer is this, then it gives off a true for Boolean, and this will happen. Otherwise, this will happen. So if the answer is mouse pointer, then this code will happen. If the answer is not mouse pointer, then we're going to be using our arrow keys in that case. Alright, now let's make the arrow keys. there are many ways to do the arrow keys. There's the event, which picks up if you press a certain button. So when these arrow keys are pressed, something will happen. So it's listening for a certain thing to happen. Or we can do the same thing in a different way. We can use a forever loop, and if an arrow key is pressed, do this. Personally, I like to do it this way so we don't make too many different events of brown. So basically what I mean is, if I do one for each arrow key, look at how messy this gets. But if I do just one, then there's only going to be one of these events. It's just going to be longer, but not as chaotic. Alright, so we're gonna use this in the forever loop. So forever, if, and then we're going to be using the sensing, the key up arrow is pressed, that means I'm going to change my X position relative to its position. What I mean by relative means if X is 4 here, or in this case 119, or my bad, we have to use Y. If Y is 19, as it says here, change the Y value by 10. We're not setting a Y value, we're just changing it by a certain amount. So if I press the up arrow, we're going to change the Y value by 5. So let's do arrow keys. Now in reality you can choose whatever you want, because if the answer isn't mouse pointer, this happens. So if I do muffin button, this will still work. And we're going to be activating this. So if I press the up arrow, look at that, the sprite moves up. Now let's add the ones for other keys. If the down arrow is pressed, we want the Y value to change negatively. If the left arrow is pressed, we want to change the X position negatively. If you guys don't know, this side is negative, this side is positive. And you can see that with right here. This is where your mouse pointer is located. Alright, now let's change this for the right arrow. Change X by 5. If you guys know how I did that, good for you. If you guys don't, you can right click your mouse and this will show. And you can also do this with duplicate and cut or delete up here, like so. Alright, now that this works, we can do pi button and use our arrow keys, and our sprite is moving. Alright, that's cool. Now if I move my sprite here and stop the project and open it again, the sprite starts here. Let's make it so the sprite is wherever we want it to be. So if I want it to start in a certain position, you want the sprite to go here, and then everything happens. So here's the sprite, and ask the question. Let's use the mouse pointer this time, and there it goes. Alright, now we have to make the sprite collect objects to complete the objective. Okay, so we're going to be using code for this as well. So when this is clicked or pressed, forever, if this gets touched by the character, so if, let me go to sensing, touching, and this is your object. So if touching the character, there's a line here because this is your sprite. If I had more sprites, they would show up here, and this is your fixed things. So if touching the character, we want something to happen. We want this coin to disappear. So that's in the looks. show means show itself, hide means hide itself. So when we start the project, we want it to show, but when it touches the character, we want it to hide. So let's press mouse pointer again, and let's touch this. Look, it hid. Now, that's not very fun. We want the coin to continuously change positions and add a score value. So there are many ways to do this. We're going to be using a variable. Now, as I said before, a variable is a placeholder for a number or a changing value. So we can input a name for the variable. So this is going to be your score. Let's name it score. This is the publicity of your variable. If you guys know any Java, this would be the public in whatever function you're doing. So if you guys know Java, that can be either public, protected, or private. In this case, we are saying, is this variable going to be used for every sprite or for only this sprite? So that means this sprite cannot use this variable. So we're going to be making this public. So when it's touching the character, we want to increase the score by 1. And in the beginning of the game, we want to set the score to 0. Let's use arrow keys. And let's see what our score is. It is 1. If you click a circular object and click on it, you can see the score. But that doesn't really help because the person watching or playing cannot see your score. So we want to show the variable score. Alright, there it is. So let's use arrow keys again, and when we click this or go over it, our score increases. Now, the final part of this we're going to be doing for the beginner aspect is making the coin go wherever it wants randomly. So whenever you get the coin, it will move to a different part of the screen. Alright, so if it's touching the character, change score by 1 and hide. We want to move somewhere else and then show itself again. So in operators, there is a random. This will pick a random integer value. So we're going to be using this. And we're also going to be using go to a position. So we're going to go to a random position. Now this canvas is between x equals 240 and x equals negative 240. So we're going to put x equals negative 240 here and 240 here. Y is between 180 or negative 180 and 180. So you're going to be putting 180 here, negative 180 here, and 180 here. So, and we have to show it. So after it hides, it will go to a different part. So let's use our mouse pointer. And if we collect this, it'll go to a different location, like so. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of weird and new, but you know, it's good to help other people out. Now, look out for the intermediate, advanced, and expert videos where I'm going to go more in depth of these. And until next time, don't forget to turn off your sticky keys.